All right, we're officially live, and then let me start the live on Instagram. Perfect, it worked. Okay, cool.
I
Sorry,
love when
it's
that
been
happens.
yeah, when everything goes as planned, beautiful. Okay, guys, welcome to another episode of Office Hours. I am Nyla Simone, and today we have a very special guest joining us. We have Jenny Call, and today's topic is level up your music marketing. Now, I'm super excited because we have actually worked with Jenny over at Too Lost, but her resume is pretty deep. So we're gonna get into all that and more now. Jenny, thank you for joining us.
Thank you. I'm so excited.
Yes, of course. Now, for those who aren't familiar with you and your work and your background, how did you get into marketing?
Yeah, so I actually, for going to the beginning, I actually got into marketing while I was still in college. I went to UC Santa Barbara and actually had to pay a lot of my own living expenses and tuition. So I ended up being a promoter at a local like bar and nightclub, and I would get paid for every girl I brought in and every guy. $2 for every girl, 50 cents for every guy. No offense, men, but um, yeah, I ended up really starting to make a name for myself in the promoting world. And when I graduated, they offered me a full-time job as marketing manager, not because I was qualified, because the girl in the position went to rehab. So it was like kind of like a God shot for me, where I didn't want to go back to my hometown. So I was like, let's do it. And I really focused on social media marketing in order to really bring people into the club. And it was great. Really, I've been doing social media marketing for probably about 15 years now.
Oh, wow.
Not to age myself, but yeah, from the beginning, really getting gritty with MySpace and then Facebook and looking for people's birthdays and inviting them in and making big moments out of holidays and really like creating relationships with people. And from there, I was approached by a local music venue in Santa Barbara that wanted to do kind of like the same thing, but with artists. And it was a pay to play venue, which I felt was so unfair. Like, why should artists have to pay this fee in order to perform and be responsible for the tickets? And if they didn't make enough at the door, like they were liable for that money. So I convinced the owner to let me run it, and I would be the in-house talent buyer, promoter, street team, day of contact, you name it. And that's when I really started falling in love with the music business. And it was just like very unconventional. I just taught myself. I created a fake company called JMFC, which stands for Jenny Motherfucking Call. But no one knew that. No one really asked. So I looked official and I had no idea what I was doing. I just would study the bands that I loved and look if they were routing from LA to San Francisco and convince them to stop in Santa Barbara and offer them a guarantee or a door split or whatever it took. Gambling with my own money in order to make it happen. And in this 300 cap venue, I ended up like working with amazing artists like T-Pain and DJ Quick and Mickey Avalon and Dirt Nasty. And it was such a great learning experience. And I realized if I wanted to do this on a larger level, I would have to come to LA. So I did some research and I learned that a lot of people had to be on an agent's desk with 3 different people in order to learn and to get their shot. And I was like, I'm not doing that. I'm impatient and I always like try to find the third door in. So I decided to study the artists that I really admired, especially their marketing. And I narrowed it down to 3 artist managers that I was like, I have to learn under one of these. So one of them was a manager named Jake Udell, who ran a company named Third Brain. And at the time they had Zoo, Cruella, Gallant, Nombe, like a really tasty roster. So I sent him a letter. I didn't have the formal resume experience of ever assisting someone before, but I sent this letter just saying, hey, I have no ego about this. I will do whatever it takes. Just give me a shot, please. I want to learn everything. And somehow the letter got to someone at the company, which then got to someone else and then landed on the floor of his car. And his fiance found the letter and was like, hey, there's something about this girl. I think you should talk to her. And I did my research, and I had his favorite book in my bag, and I knew what to say during the interview in order to like get his attention. And it was such an interesting process. He actually had me, he took my cover letter and put it in front of me and was like, hey, I want you to correct all your grammar mistakes in this. And I was like, sure. And I take a look, and I'm like, there could probably be a comma there. Like, maybe I'll change this. And then I asked for feedback. I was like, well, what did you see? Like, what could I do better? And apparently that was a test to see how I would react to feedback and not have an ego about it. Like, wait, what are you talking about? Like, mistakes. Like, so I ended up getting the job, and it was a roller coaster. It was an incredible experience. I assisted him, the manager of all of these artists, as well as I became day-to-day for an artist named Grace Vanderwall, who had just won America's Got Talent and had this like blossoming career. So it was a wild ride. I learned really quickly that management was a 24/7 job, and I had my hands on everything, which was really, really, really cool. Until her parents ended up firing my boss, and I realized, I was like, wait, you can just get fired as a manager? I was like, I can't do this. I'm too sensitive. What else am I going to do? I love marketing. I love that part of it. Like, how can I really like learn more in that realm? And I figured, I was like, I think I'm missing like a women mentor. That's what I need. So again, I studied a list of women that I really admired. I had the opportunity to be at Billboard Women in Music that year. Grace Vanderwall was the rising star, and Julie Greenwald was Executive of the Year. And she did this amazing speech where she credited her mentor, Lior, but she couldn't wait for the day where there's more women up there crediting another woman for helping to bring them up. And I was like, that's it. That's what I need. So again, looked at who I wanted to work with. I looked at who was in attendance that year, and I found Elise Rogers, who was running Artist Partner Group, which is the label Mike Karen owns and runs. So I was like, that's it. So next thing you know, I ended up interviewing with her for a position, and she really liked my story and hired me. And I got to work at APG for about 2 years, and I loved it. It was a joint venture with Atlantic Records at the time. So I really got to learn the ins and outs of the major label system, and also the inefficiencies I felt. I didn't really understand how, as a marketer at a label, they didn't really do marketing. It was hiring all these agencies in order to do it with a smaller artist budget. And with an artist with like 5K, essentially these agencies all had minimums to run a campaign. And I felt like there wasn't one agency that did everything. You had your agency that does ads. You had one that does influencer campaigns. You have one that does maybe like Snapchat marketing or whatever it is, but there wasn't one that did all of it that was affordable for artists. And I felt like gambling. I was like, well, if I'm going to use all of this artist budget in order to do this one influencer campaign, it better work. And it was a gamble. It didn't always work. So I really felt like, I was like, this doesn't make sense. There's got to be a better way. And like, how did we do this in-house? And at the time, there was also someone that was running all of the ads for the company, and I was watching what he was doing. And I was like, ooh, this is interesting to me. Like, here you can take a finite budget, put it into advertising, and really see this tangible growth. Like, I like that. But again, I didn't really understand why we were paying an outside person to do that, where they kept all the pixel data, and the artist didn't have ownership of that. And I was like, that doesn't make sense. Like, the artist, it should be ran in the artist ads manager with them owning the pixel and all of the data so that they can retarget in the future. So again, I experimented with another label where I was really trying to learn if things were different. It was in the UMG system. And again, it just really felt like the same thing. So I decided to be the solution to my own problem, where I put my head down. The year was 2020. It was a very odd time for artists where, touring was canceled. You really had to rely on these social platforms for reach. And I didn't have budgets to work with. And I was very fortunate that a couple artists trusted me and were like, well, we'll let you do your thing. And I put my head down, and I really, really studied advertising and how to make a lot happen with a small budget. And that led to, okay, your ads are only as good as your creative. How do I help artists make better creative that's going to operate well as an ad where someone's going to click on it within the first 3 seconds and be interested? So I really spent time learning both and creating relationships with lots of editors, videographers. I even rented a house in Echo Park where I would have artists come in, shoot their content for the week, we'd edit it, and then post it for them so they could be an artist for the rest of the week and not have to stress about what they're going to post on TikTok. And if anything raised its hands, I would go in with an ad budget. And that seemed to work really well. I had a couple of really great viral successes, one being I'm Not Shane, which blew up on TikTok, resulting in like 70 million streams within the first month of release with no marketing budget. Just incredible. I mean, that was the golden age of TikTok. It was a wonderful year. So really leaned into TikTok specifically in order to create great content that has a hook, that's engaging, that people are going to interact with in order to start like creating these trends and using sounds. And that worked really well. I was able to build my own company off of that and consult and help artists. And it's really fun because like no artist, like all artists are different and have different needs. And I would just try to understand like, okay, like what is your need? Where do you feel like you need the most support? And how do I find a solution for that? So it could be anywhere from, okay, we're going to run ads and really try to drive streams that way or follows or whatever, or it can be just really fine-tuning your content strategy and making sure like you lay a great foundation in branding in order to attract the right fans, and then going in with an advertising budget later. So it just really depends. And that was super, super fun. I ended up also being like the ads person for a couple of other marketing agencies. So I would be their advertising arm when they were ready. And I learned a lot that way. And I saw other agencies starting to use faceless pages in order to move sounds, and I got super interested in that. I was like, okay, that is smart. I watched like fan pages start to build, and then from there I started working with a label called Nice Life, which is Ricky Reed's label, and from that ended up having an amazing moment with Tinashe Nasty, which completely stemmed from a UGC video of someone doing the nasty dance that we were like right away, we're like, that's incredible. How do we build that? And it was just a brilliant case study of reacting fast, getting people to do it, and putting an advertising spend on that in order to make sure nasty was the song of the summer. And you saw it everywhere, and those videos were just everywhere. So that was super, super fun and helped get my name out there a little bit more. But my sweet spot has always been independent artists, since like I worked from budgets anywhere from, $250,000 to $250. And I still really like have always focused on, okay, what are the tools that I learned from major labels and how do I make them accessible to independent artists? Because y'all have access to those tools, like the labels are hiring the same agencies that you can be hiring too without having to give away your masters or a portion of the master. So that's really been my philosophy and how I've tried to help artists. And it's so fulfilling. I'm doing exactly what I want to do. And with digital, it's so fun because you have to always be like in the flow of what's new and what's happening. And it's always changing. The algorithm's different and what's hot now. So I've definitely stayed up on my toes. And then the past year I started at Position Music as director of digital. And that's been a great experience. So we work with all sorts of different budgets as well. And one of the most recent campaigns that got success was one that we actually stemmed with no marketing budget from a fan page that ended up going viral with a trend created. So it's like, it's really fun. It's really amazing what you can do with proper like planning and strategy, and really trying to like go into the artist, like the messaging, what is the messaging behind the song, like, and like how can we build off that in order to make it relatable to where people are going to want to use it. So about 6 months ago, I was brought on to help with All American Rejects through Too Lost, and that has been an incredible experience where basically I leaned into TikTok in order to figure out where our fans were. And I knew people knew these songs, these epic anthems. And if I could just find those people to remember and that nostalgia, I could tap into something bigger around the new music that we were releasing. And yeah, that's exactly what happened. And it's just been amazing to watch how receptive the fans and the audience were to that, and really leaning on social media in order to do that, with the adoption of the house party tour, which we never would have expected to blossom as beautiful as it did. So yeah, it's been amazing. It's been a really, really great learning experience. And that was a long intro.
Oh, that was great. It was well detailed, and I had no idea you were behind all of those things. The Tinashe work was incredible. Definitely been loving the All American Rejects rollout. You guys are really killing it. So, and also there's a few things that I actually really liked about your story. One is shout out to his fiance. Like you got to keep women on your team. That's one thing. Like, got to keep women on the team, because if it wasn't for her, you know, that connection would have never been made. But also, I just really like the fact that you've always like found a way. Like, I think you worded it as the third door. Like, that is really brilliant in its own, because you're forced to think outside the box. But it seems like that's what you like. That's why you like social media so much.
Oh yeah. Yeah, there's actually a book called The Third Door, which is an inspiring read of a USC student who went on this quest in order to interview notable figures in order to figure out what their third door was. It's like, I would definitely highly recommend. Lady Gaga's in there, like anyone you can imagine. So it's
like that. Okay, I'm definitely gonna tap in. Now, for an artist who's just starting out and trying to take their marketing more seriously, where do you think they should focus first? Should it be like one platform, or should it just be like, I know a thing I see a lot now on Instagram is like pillars, like focusing on pillars. Do you have like a starting point that you would say?
yeah, definitely. Like I start with some sort of like branding guide where I'm like, okay, like let's really like look into you as an artist, your creative, and your identity. Like, what do you want to come across? Like, what's important to you? What about the visuals? Like, who inspires you? It's like really getting to know them as far as those pillars, because essentially I like to ask for 4 pillars. What are like 4 pieces of content that you feel you can post on a regular basis? Like, what are your interests? Is it, maybe it's okay, I produce all my own music. Great. That's one pillar. You're going to make content every single week that shows you in the production process. It can be how I made this song in 60 seconds. It can be, hey, this is the process of like finding a beat for my song. It can be the songwriting, anything that has to do with the music. That's one of your pillars. And the second one can be like, well, I'm really inspired by fashion. I love thrifting. Okay, take us out on a thrifting day. Show us what you get. Like, your excitement and your personality like comes through with these things, and we want to get to know you. I feel like the days of like, I mean, everyone wants to be like the figure where it's like, I just don't reveal too much about myself. I'm like, the dominant Fikes. But I believe if that were to roll out today, it would not have the same impact. People now want to know who you are. They want to buy into you. What do you stand for? What do you like? Like, how do I connect with you and identify? So it's really important that your pillars really coincide with that. And it also needs to be something that you can do regularly. Like, it's not going to be like, oh, I love like skydiving's great, I'm going to do that. I'm like, are you going to do that consistently every single week? Like, then I wouldn't do that. I would do something that's like simple. Like, I love matcha lattes. Here's how I make one. Cool. I'm sure you have a matcha every day. Like, make it be something that you can do and you can edit on your own, and not this big, like, lofty goal. So really taking the time to identify that, to create a consistent strategy, because as you're starting out and laying the foundation, the consistency is everything. And really having like thick skin as far as like knowing that, yeah, at first you're not going to get a ton of engagement, but if you stay consistent, and you're going to attract the right fan or the right audience person who is going to convert, if you really like show your core values too, and let people get to know you. I'd say like it takes like 90 days of consistency in order to like really start building that algorithm. And it's tough because each of the platforms like change so quickly. But I really find that I don't technically tell people to like focus in on one platform. I typically like, if you're going to do that, like, okay, say it's TikTok. I'm going to focus in on TikTok. I'm going to create 4 posts a week. Keep it at that. Don't do 1 week where it's like 9 posts and you're crazy, and the next week you do 1. And then you come back again, and it's like keep it consistent. Do 4 posts a week for 6 weeks. Start there, keep it consistent, and see where you're at. But make sure that you're cross-posting that content to IG Reels, YouTube Shorts. Some of it, like more produced stuff, can be on Spotify Clips. Like really utilizing all of these platforms, because you don't know where they're going to come, and each platform seems to be having like, a different moment. Like Reels, for example, I really see Reels working right now and gaining traction. I think it has to do with competing with TikTok or whatnot through this like, upcoming change, but really staying in the know of that and being consistent and using the tools, keeping updated and like, oh, trial Reels. What is this? Should I try it? Oh, wow, this is working. Oh, actually, this isn't working. Let's pivot. And really taking a look at like the data and what those results are. Like the platforms will tell you the best time to post. They'll tell you who your audience is. Really like take the time to research what other artists are doing that are in your lane that you like. Like how can you grow off that and adopt certain like text hooks? What are the trending sounds that you can be using that still feel authentic to you? Really, really like taking the time to figure out how these different platforms work, which I know can be really, really daunting. There's a lot out there, but keep it simple. Start with one that you feel you can do on a consistent basis and repost that content.
Okay, great gems. I'm learning a lot from this conversation, so thank you. But you said that you started in the MySpace era and now we're in the era of TikTok. Is there anything that has been consistent marketing wise within the digital marketing world that constantly works no matter the platform?
I would say ads.
Okay.
I'm probably biased because I am a paid media. That's my bread and butter. But yeah, throughout this entire time, it has been maybe not MySpace as much, but like Facebook ads has been an incredible platform. And I really find that Meta ads conversions specifically is the best data-based ad you can and the cleanest. And there are all kinds of tools that you can use in order to make sure that your audience actually gets to the destination. One tool I use is Artist Hub. And essentially, you can create a deep link, like a landing page first off, and then a deep link just for Spotify, where on mobile, as you're running an ad, this deep link will, if someone clicks on it, it will force open Spotify on your phone and autoplay the song. And it bypasses the person clicking on the ad, then seeing the link in the link tree and being like, Spotify, clicking Spotify. And then again, Spotify's open. Oh, I'm going to press play. That is like 3 to 4 different actions that people's attention spans aren't that long. Like if you can cut that out and the person just stays long enough for that song to start streaming, 20, 25 seconds, whatever it is, like that counts as a stream, and you have a better chance of hooking someone, with your music if you are targeting the right person and they like it. So there's all kinds of little tricks and tools that have come along the way in order to make sure that like it is the best experience. But I definitely find is there's so much new, sexy, cool things to do, but ads really work no matter what if you take the time to learn. And there's so many great resources out there, from YouTube to other marketers who do courses. But it also really stems down from creating great content that's going to work well as an ad. And I always recommend like using the content that you post on your page as the ad too, instead of just dark ads. That way you get to see that good engagement on your profile and everything looks good and popping.
So would you recommend starting just organically on your page? And if you see it does well on your page, then do ad, or do you create with the ad in mind?
You can really do both. You have to think about the user's experience as they're scrolling. It's like, okay, is this something that they're going to click on within the first 3 seconds?
Right.
But also, people are so sensitive to being advertised at all the time. Like, how do you make a piece of content that doesn't feel like an ad? that just feels like a moment, something exciting, a way to hook someone into watching the rest. So I typically will say post your content for the week. Keep in mind like what could work well as an ad, and see if anything raises its hand. If anything starts getting a little bit of traction and engagement, put a spend behind it. I learned like it's better not to force things because you're going to pay a lot more money in order for that ad to connect. But if something is already going, put a little bit of fuel on it, test it. It can even be $10 a day. Doesn't have to be a lot, but you'll know based on the cost per click whether or not it's worth it. So anything like under 10 cents, I'll typically be like, ooh, like that, let's double down on that. And then you'll see the results like just grow exponentially in the back end. But it also like, it'll tell you like, oh, hey, people seem to be liking this type of content. I should make more of that. And like really making sure you like keep rolling that out too.
Okay. I have a question for you. This is kind of random, but not really. I have a friend who went viral for like, she's a singer, but she went viral for like making dolphin noises. And now whenever she drops songs, people
Love
just
her.
like, oh, you already know who I'm talking about?
Emojis too.
Yes. But now in her comment section, when she drops like a new music video or releases a new song, people are like dropping dolphins or asking her to do a dolphin version of the record where she's just trying to push the record. So I guess in a case like that, would you recommend that you like make the dolphin thing a pillar, or is it like how do you balance something taking over?
Yeah. I mean, she's super interesting because she definitely like, she used that in order to get people's attention. Which was great, super funny. But yeah, again, you sometimes fall into the trap of like when you build a following based on like those posts, people like expect it.
Yeah.
So again, be careful because when you start a pillar like that, it should be something that you can keep up. Otherwise, people following will be like, wait, I thought I followed you for this and you're not doing that. Like
Yeah.
unfollow. So yeah, it would be definitely one of the pillars. And she has another one that I think I like. It's like, I think it's like white people in the club or something like that. Like,
Yeah.
bah, 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 bah. It's so good.
Super funny.
Yeah. But I also know like sometimes it's discouraging when it's like, okay, you get so many views on that and then you post your own music and it just doesn't. And it's the same across the board. Everyone, including huge artists, have that same problem.
Yeah.
So it's, it's a balance. It's still not getting discouraged, still keep pushing your music, still keep doing your own thing as far as like the original stuff, and sprinkle in a couple of those here and there in order to keep the audience like, oh yeah, that's why I follow. And I think she does do a good job with that too.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. I love that you're already hip to who I'm referring
I
to.
love social media. And I think that I am first and foremost a fan of these platforms, and I spend way too much time scrolling every single night. So again, that translates into the work, I'd like to say.
Beautiful. Yes, we love that. Now, what would you say is one of the biggest mistakes that you see a lot of independent artists doing when they're trying to market themselves?
I would say bringing on these agencies with a huge fee and not knowing how much is actually going into the marketing versus how much is the fee that they're pocketing. There's not a lot of transparency in this space. And something that also happens so often is like you hire a marketing company and then they hire another marketing company to do that marketing all the time. And it's like you're getting like these independent artists are getting upcharged in order for this service that you can just go straight to the source. But there's just not a lot of like integrity is really, really hard to find, in my opinion. And I really feel like the transparency is everything. Like I'll be direct about like, okay, hey, I'm running this campaign based on your budget. It is, $5,000. My fee is going to be 20% of that. Do you want it to be taken from that or put on top of that fee? Okay, cool. The transparency is everything. And that's what I was really like confused about for a long time, is like on the other side of it, as like a marketer of a label, not knowing, okay, like, well, how much did you put into the ads? You're coming back to me and saying that like it didn't work, but like how much went into it? And if it didn't work, why didn't you tell me? I would have paused it and I would have given you a different ad creative. I would have tried something else. Like, why are you spending the budget just to spend the budget to come back and tell me it didn't work? And again, like, that's why I created my own business, because I was like, I had to be the solution to that. And I just saw so many artists being taken advantage of, and so many artists like taking their 10,000 precious dollars and putting it into an influencer campaign, where it's, again, like, a lot of these influencers are actually charging $250, $300, and you're paying more than double in order to work with an agency in order to do it. So it's really difficult. And I have really, even working at a label, stopped working with a ton of agencies and done a lot of the research myself and reached out to creators. I'm like, hey, what's your fee? Okay, I can't afford that, but can you do 50? Here's my offer. Yes, no. And that's something that's available to anyone. You know, you don't have to go through an agency to do that. You can really just do the research and find like what aligns for you, and look at different sounds in your genre. Who's posting under those sounds? Like, how can you create a relationship with these pages on your own in order to feed them like new music on a consistent basis? And a lot of the time, some of these pages will be like, sure, like 5 posts for $100, and there you go.
Wow.
You know, my agencies are going to hate me right now, but I mean, that's it. Like, you have these same resources. It just takes a little bit of time in order to be strategic about what's the best way to spend your budget, you know, because there's a lot of different things that you need to be able to do within that budget. So that's also something that I take the time to help artists with. And I'll be transparent too if I'm like, hey, that doesn't make sense with your budget. Like, I would not spend it all on that when you can be doing this. So
Jenni, I totally understand why everybody loves you. Like, you're passionate, and you're also just so brilliant. I know I said that earlier, but definitely brilliant. I want to get into the comment section real quick. AAR stuff said, hello, Jenni, doing amazing work. Let's see. Impulse said, tapped in from Twitter. Shout out to Impulse. Shelly Howard is like, Jenni, claps for Jenni. Yes.
Shelly.
Impulse says, first time I've heard of Spotify clips or trial reels. Yes, lots of gems. Oh, followed by Pearl Jones saying, loving these marketing gems. Lolly says, loving the chat, learning a lot. Okay, good. Okay, great. And then Tevin Williams says, thanks for the tips. Okay, I like it. All good stuff. Okay, so my next question is, what platforms or tools do you consider essential in a modern artist marketing toolkit? Because I know there's all types of, like, we can do it all for you. Is there any that you favor?
Currently, it's really like direct to fan type platforms where you can really create that relationship. You don't want to be like tied to an algorithm in order to reach your fans. I know it's super frustrating for a lot of artists now to have built their social following up to a certain point, but now have to spend money in order to reach them with ads. So I really recommend, okay, like, how do you build your fan group? Like, how do you figure out, like, okay, who are those fans? Where are they? What platforms are they using? How do you centralize them somewhere? And how do you communicate with them and add value on a consistent basis? And it can be IG broadcast channel. It can be creating your Discord and keeping people active in there. As far as platform goes, I love Lalo for texting and email, and then Co-Brand. Completely obsessed with Co-Brand. It's such an incredible platform. I can't believe I didn't create it. But essentially, what you can do in Co-Brand is so vast. You can see who your fans are, what their activities are. Have they bought your merch? Have they streamed your new song? Where do they live? Spotify notoriously doesn't share any of that data as far as your fans. You can't reach them. You can't even get that data for touring in order to let them know that you're in that market. So really working with platforms like Lalo or Co-Brand in order to have that direct relationship where you can hit them on a regular basis is really everything. And knowing who they are, whether it be communicating with them via DMs on a regular basis, putting them into a specific chat where you're constantly leaking new music, trying new things. There's a lot of artists that are building their own platforms in order to do that. Like, I love Hayley Williams dropping her 17 songs on her website for fans. Like, that's brilliant. James Blake has Vault, where he really uses that in order to share demos and new music, and fans can subscribe, which also like supports him as an independent artist. But co-brand is really like the love of my life right now. It's so cool because you can also create dashboards where you're tracking like any type of influencer spends you do. You can track the live links. You can look at the data from that. You can also look at best performing UGC like for other artists. You can study different like song correlations. You can look at your own catalog and like if something seems to be raising its hand and you're like, wait, this is up 10% from last week. Like I should be plugging this more. Like let me get a couple more posts about that this week. You can also like for those creators that you're reaching out to, you can also onboard them in co-brand and have their links and their contact and their payment and email directly from them in the future in order to get them on more campaigns. You can also look at anyone who has tagged you in a story and download it directly, no matter when the date was, and take that content, repost it to your own socials or put it on your fan page and really start getting consistent content so that you're not always having to like, okay, every time I want to get a fan page post up, I have to create this content. It's so daunting. I have my main page. It's like so much to do. I'm like, take what people are already creating and repost it.
That is so good. What? Oh, so good. I'm loving this. The chat is loving it too. Jen says, let's go, Jenny. And then Megan also said, yay, Jenny. What? Oh my God. No, I'm such a fan. This is all great stuff. Okay, so my next question is, how much marketing success is strategy versus consistency?
I would say like 50-50, honestly.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is. I feel like without strategy, you're just kind of like posting into the void, which could work, trying to find your fans. But again, you're also beholden to the algorithm, working or not working. But with a little bit of strategy, like say you post with some sort of call to action in order to join your fan club, or hey, here a teaser for my new song, comment this. You're getting that engagement, and then you're also adding value to that fan and getting them down the funnel, which is like the next step. I'm like, okay, hey, I know who this person is. They're clearly interested in my music. Like I'm adding value by sharing snippets. Like, okay, what else can I do? Let's make sure that I have their information and they're in my Laylo or my co-brand so I can text them on a regular basis and keep them in the know. I think the strategy is like so important, especially as you're like gearing up towards a rollout. You're like, okay, like what am I doing 6 weeks before my song drops in order to really like have the best traction? It's like the creative planning. Okay, I have this content, which is going to get me up to this point. Now I have to create a strategy around that in order to keep people's retention, and how am I going to drive streams in this content, and what tools am I going to use within my budget. So yeah, I definitely say like taking the time to be thoughtful and really look at it from a holistic view, like not just the first 6 weeks, but again, the post like 3 weeks are essentially more important too. Okay, my song is out. How am I going to continue driving traction to it? And how am I going to keep people interested before their attention spans move on to the next thing? So that's another big thing that like we help artists with, really, really trying to create enough content and content ideas that is going to get you through that entire rollout, so that you're not just like posting into the void and getting discouraged when people aren't responding or reacting.
Yeah, I like that terminology, posting into the void, because I think that is what a lot of people are doing.
Hard. Listen to my song. Listen to it. Listen to it. Why? Why should they listen to your song?
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, I'm a little distracted because there's a lot of comments coming in. Great comments too, and some questions. Ariana said, so insightful. Alex from LinkedIn said, definitely looking into co-brand. Thank you. Caitlin says, icon. Okay, Lolly has a question. She said, what about an artist just starting out? Should they continue to use their already existing social media accounts or create new ones from scratch?
I actually get asked this a lot because a lot of people like, it's hard to distinguish the person from the artist. And if you have a social media account that's like your life and it's like you, like I would start one that's the artist and really keep everything like on that page that is related to your artist project with like personality as well. But a lot of the time I work with artists who's like their Instagrams are also like their personal, they're like out with their friend or, you know, like stuff like that. And it's like the artist like is also like, it's this character, like who is this character, like who are they, like what do they like, what is the messaging, what is the mission, like what are you trying to communicate with fans. And especially with starting a new page, you also get a new algorithm too, and what you do on that page matters. Like on TikTok, if you have your artist TikTok but yet you're scrolling and watching like girls twerking all the time, when you post something, TikTok is going to feed it out to girls twerking, or it's going to feed the content to that what you're engaging in. So it's really important that for your artist account, like be intentional with what you're looking at. Yeah. Scroll away if something comes up that's like not that, like really prime it. Go and follow other artists in that lane, comment, engage on their post. You're really training the algorithm like who you are and who to feed your content to. And the text on screen matters. All of that SEO really, really matters. The algorithm's not that smart. Like you have to like train it. You can even put text on screen and push it to the side so you can't see it. But that text also acts as SEO, trying to find, like it wants to find who your audience is. It just takes a bit of training in order to get it there. So definitely start a new account and be super, super smart with like how you're building it.
Sense. Rubber Band $sign said, I am on 22K plays on SoundCloud doing nothing. This is to see which of my songs are worth investing. Cool strategy.
I love that. Yeah, it's like so often like being these label meetings and are like, that's the hit. That's it. We're going to identify this hit and put all the money behind that. And it's like, dude, no one knows. Like, you know, like look at Lizzo's songs getting traction 4 years after release. You know, you don't know. And I think it is a really cool strategy to let the fans be a part of that and be reactive to the data. I think that's why it's also like the consistency on platforms such as Spotify are so important, because you're constantly like training that algorithm with new music. And then if something raises its hand, you're like, oh, this is worth looking at. Like, let's go back and create like a marketing strategy around that. So I think SoundCloud is like the perfect platform to do that with.
Another question from the chat is from Ryu Richie. He says, to clarify, do you suggest artists make their own fan page?
So I have been working with fan pages for the past, I'd say like 2 to 3 years, with a lot of artists running their own. I do feel like people are catching on to that in a big way and like feeling like, you know, everyone's like, there's like 20 Benson Boone accounts, or Somber. Somber, the whole masterclass on marketing. It's incredible. I feel like people are starting to become a little bit like wary of that. So also like a spam page. Like, what is the theme of the song that you're pushing? Is it like a particular niche? I feel like songs really break within these niches, and you like really like start small there and grow it. So example of this was like an artist on Positions, Hunter Metz, and he has a song Weather Vane, which came out last November, and we took time to listen to the lyrics and really identify a niche within, you know, like family, feel good, like Christian type lyrics. Like the lyrics are very ambiguous. It could be about anything. It's not a Christian song specifically, but we're like, how do we grow within this niche? And one of my coworkers actually like had a page that was like lyrics to relate to, and created this whole spam page with these Pinterest photos, one scroll to the next with the lyrics on the screen. And from that actually inspired its own trend. More people saw it and started copying that, and thus resulting in 260,000 creates and 30,000 streams on the song on Spotify alone. It works. It really, really does. You just have to tap into that relatability. And it's like, you're not creating the content from scratch. Go on Pinterest, look at those photos, download them, put some text on screen. There you go. Keep posting. I have artists that have like a number of spam pages, whether it be from indie music, and it's like posting like certain popular songs in order to get the algorithm going, but then their own song like in between. And it's a great way to be associated with the artist that you like. It's like the same thing, like creating a playlist and putting your song in between other songs that are like that. Like that also helps the algorithm. I think it can be obvious if you create a fan page for yourself and it looks like you're running it, but get creative with it. Like, what is the niche? You know, what is your music about? Like, what audience do you think would really like it? Is it, you know, is it Demon Hunters? The song would go perfect in it. Well, let me create a Demon Hunters fan page and plug my song in there and do it for 4 weeks. If it doesn't work, try another one.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just don't know what's going to connect. And really like building off of pop culture or what's hot right now, or like what other people are doing, is a really great way to have a better chance of connecting.
Love that. We have a lot of questions, so I'm gonna try to get through them all. I promise. Shelly Howard said you did amazing. With Heaven.
Shelly runs an amazing fan page for Hunter. So again, as a marketer, knowing who is behind these fan pages and creating relationships with them and giving them new content is just, again, it's priceless.
Alex says, do you feel that utilizing Cedar faceless accounts is an effective strategy for new artists who don't want to overload their personal account with content?
Absolutely. POV type pages, anything that's like really mood based, anything that's like really like verbiage driven. There's all kinds of different pages that like could be dark and moody, or there's some that are more like collagey. Really look for those pages that you like, reach out to them, ask if they do TikTok song promos. They'll know what that means, and figure out what they cost, or create one that looks just like it. Everyone's doing it. Like, there's no rules. Like, flattery is imitation is the highest form of flattery. Just go for it.
That is true.
It's also cheaper than getting influencers. You can get a bunch of posts on these pages inexpensively, rather than putting all your funds into an influencer who may or might not connect.
That's true. Okay, another question from the chat is from Gia via YouTube. He said, or Gia, sorry if I said that wrong, but would love to hear your take on how converting small live moments to viral moments work for different size artists. Example, the Brat Wall, relying on fans to amplify the moments on social.
Yeah. With the moment with All American Rejects and all the viral content, it was it was really a lot of like inspiration behind some of the best fan activations over the last year. I studied what Charlie XCX was doing, and how she wasn't just relying on digital in order to get the song out there. She was creating these in real life activations that people could go to in real life and like it so much that they're going to take the content and they're going to post it and do essentially some of the marketing for you. I thought that was brilliant. And I also saw Alex Warren doing his pop-up at Warren Square, and how many people in the audience were taking videos of that and posting it. And I was like, well, it was connecting so well. And I was like, well, maybe I don't need to have all these influencers at these events getting paid to make content that might not feel authentic. Like, what if we just create a great enough event where the fans are going to go and want to share it online? And that's exactly what happened with the LA house party. And we were really blown away by these USC students and fans who just shared videos. And it was so authentic because the band was having the best time performing on ground level with the artist, not on a huge stage, huge environment. It's really in an intimate space, connecting with the fans and feeding off the energy. And that authenticity is what connected and helps the post go viral. So yeah, definitely. I feel like we're going into this era where people have been, like COVID was so disconnected from each other, and now people really want connection. So how do you create like these environments for people to come together and and meet each other and have a great time and want to share about it. And
Yeah.
it's like the Brat Wall specifically, like what's something you can do, like a mural, what's something that people can take photos of and share, like what do those like more out of the box, out of home activations look like, and how can you also connect it to digital as well? Yeah, I actually did like a story with a news article with Billboard about this exact thing and how other marketers are really adopting a lot of that strategy too, to create lasting moments for fans. And that's really what the house party tour was all about, was creating this safe space for fans to just like just have a great time and enjoy the music first and foremost. So yeah, I love that question. I'm like super passionate about that at the moment.
Nice. All good stuff, man. I'm gonna ask my last two questions and then I'm gonna let you go. But seriously, thank you. This has been such an insightful conversation. But okay, so how do you approach audience building differently for emerging artists versus established ones?
I would say a lot of it has to do with like, I understand that it is easier for some of like these like larger artists, such as like the Rejects, to throw a party and have people like connect with some of these large songs and the nostalgia it brings and like want to post about it. And as someone who's starting out, like, do a local show, do a pop-up. Something I saw that was so cool was, as you were leaving Warp Tour, there was a band on top of a van playing to people as they were exiting. And so many people got videos of that. And I'll be honest, those videos actually went more viral than the videos from Warp Tour. I studied the UGC from the event, looked at everything that like worked and what didn't work. And this particular band was so smart in doing that and performing to an already warm audience of that genre and making it interesting enough that people would stop and watch and grab a video of it. I think that's definitely a way to do it. Like, get on a bill with other artists doing a pop-up somewhere, and try to grow off their fans. Definitely like put yourself in situations where you can like attract a new audience, whether it's like you're busking outside, playing at a pop-up, you're showing up randomly to a DJ set or an event. I was also really inspired by Charlie XCX's like her Boiler Room set, and where she like created this like fun moment that everyone was like posting about. And I know like that's definitely like on a larger level, but like what are those smaller like local things that you can tap into? Look at the calendars of what's coming up. Look at like where people are going that could be like your potential fans, and how do you really tap into that? Also, live streams. Like, you may again feel like you're like going into the void, but the algorithm with like IG and TikTok, like when you go live for whatever reason, it pushes it out. You have a great opportunity of people clicking through and like discovering you and like staying if they like what you see. And it maybe feel discouraging and daunting when you're performing for 3 people, but that's the same experience for these larger bands too. You know how many rooms they played for? There's like 8 people who were drunk and didn't give a shit. Like, you have to start somewhere. And I think that consistency and like being like, okay, I'm going to go live again, I'm going to do this, and like putting yourself out there is really everything. And like really leaning into digital to do that. But also keeping in mind that like in live activations are so important, and making sure that you're like really at least trying to do that as well.
Yeah. No, great. Great. Okay, so can you give me an example of a low budget campaign that created some momentum?
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely say again, there's a couple that I really love, but I think Weather Vane was just such a great example of how you can spark a trend off your own owned and operated page. With, okay, what are the lyrics? Like, how do I make that easy for other people to do? I think that's really everything. I think like with a lot of these dances, I notice like if it's too complicated on TikTok, people won't do it. But if you make it really simple that anyone can do, has a better chance of going off. So I really think it's the same thing with like these types of trends. Like maybe it's a photo trend, maybe it's a CapCut template that you create for $25 with someone off of Fiverr. There's plenty of people on Fiverr who make them. And book it and get someone to seed it out and see if that gets any traction. Ask your friends to do it. With
what would you say? Sorry,
no,
would you say that storytelling plays a big role in the marketing?
I think a good example of that is Somber, with his recent song, this story about how it was like his ex-girlfriend used the song with like her new boyfriend or something like that. Like, it's probably not true. But creating that storyline in order to get people to like buy into it, it works. It really does. And like, what's going to be like relatable? So much when I'm scrolling out, I see these like hooks that are just like, you know, POV, like this just happened. And it's like an experience that you're like, oh yeah, oh, I feel that. And it's like, okay, that's relatable. This person is engaging now and like probably sharing it and like probably like commenting, responding. I'm trying to think of like who else has done something like Somber's marketing is really genius. He does a couple of things that I really like as far as like making him feel more relatable. By he has someone that follows him around posting content of him just like at the farmer's market or like tripping off the curb or like getting, my favorite one is he was outside getting his like caricature drawn. He just kind of looks over the camera and it's like, yeah, it's like staged, but it's like, it's funny and it got my attention. I was like, okay, like you know, this guy's doing something.
Jenni, so much that I learned in this call, so thank you for that. But for those who are interested in working with you, I know you said you created your own, you know, business after working with major labels and stuff like that. How can people get in contact with you? Or even, I know you mentioned earlier that a lot of marketers have courses. Do you have courses, like, you know, for teams who want to learn more? Or how can people get in contact with you?
Yeah, I would say like as a marketer, I don't market myself, which is like so bad, but it has all been like, you know, attraction rather than promotion. Instagram is definitely the best way to get a hold of me. My personal, I don't even update my company Instagram and I probably should, but the thing is, it's like, it works. And it also like, because my business has all been like word of mouth, it definitely attracts like the right people, I would say. So yeah, Instagram DM is great. I can also shoot over my email and you can literally hit me up anytime for additional questions.
Okay. I just wanted to give you some more flowers from the comment section before we wrap this up. And wait, also shout out your Instagram just in case they don't know it.
It's just at Jenni Call. I'm so lucky I got that. But JenniCall, real name.
Universal King on YouTube says great ideas. Impulse said had to Google the Billboard article. And then he followed up with that's genius. Caitlin says, thank you, ladies. You're both incredible powerhouses, and I truly learned so much from today. Yeah, I got to give it to Jenni. Okay. Major powerhouse right here. And then Burn Money Music says, thank you so much. And Pearl Jones also said, thank you both. And yeah, thank you, Jenni. I learned a lot, and I'm thankful that everybody in the chat did as well. And also shout out to everybody in the chat for tuning in and listening to this episode of Office Hours. We'll be back next month with another episode. But I will say, I've been doing Office Hours for a year now. Jenni, you are by far my favorite.
Thank you so much. That means a lot.
But thank you guys. Until next time, talk soon.